Welcome to the award-winning Dare to Dream podcast with Debbi Dachinger, covering metaphysics, ETs, shamanism, and channeling. Here you will find spiritual inspiration from today's thought leaders, along with cutting-edge insights from our interstellar brothers and sisters and ancient shamanic wisdom. Now, here's a new episode of Dare to Dream with your host, Debbi Dachinger.
To Dare to Dream. This is Debbi Dachinger, and today I am speaking with Barbara Lamb, who's a current hypnotherapist and regression therapist and considered one of the world's leading authorities in the field of UFOlogy and extraterrestrial contact. Dare to Dream won 3 Talk Positive Radio Awards, also the COVR Award for Best Podcast. It's listed in Welp as one of the top 20 best podcasts to listen to this year. It's high ranking in Apple Podcasts, and we've just been picked up in New York on 102.7 FM. So if you live back east, definitely check us out there. We are syndicated. If you'd like to know what your galactic ancestry is, I've got a Starseed report and video for you. Breaks down different types of starseeds, what your galactic ancestry is, what you look like, what your career proclivities are, your strengths, your weaknesses, all of it. It's fascinating material. Go to debbidaschinger.com/starseed. That's DEBBI, no E, DEBBI, DACHINGER.com/starseed. And coming up, the new event that I will be at, and I really hope to see you there because Los Angeles needs a lot of light right now. So come be the light worker that you are. LA Conscious Life Expo. I will be speaking on Friday at 5 p.m. I will be moderating a Galactic Federation and ET Races panel for 2 hours on Saturday, and for the first time ever on Sunday, Conscious Life Expo is offering a live podcast. It's going to be incredible. So the audience can come join. You'll have your own headphones to sit there and participate. Marilyn Gawaki is going to be my guest, and she channels the beautiful benevolent being called Zazar. So join us at 1:30 on Sunday for that. This is all live, by the way. If you'd like to come, and I hope you do because I love meeting you guys at these things, just join. Get your tickets, please, at this website, debbidaschinger.com/CLE. debbidaschinger.com/CLE for Conscious Life Expo. Well, this is really momentous for me because today I've got an icon on my show. I've known about Barbara Lamb forever, and I've thought so many times about having her on. And it took her writing her new book for that to happen, Cosmic Convergence. So thank you, Cosmic Convergence, for converging us together as well. She is a retired and licensed psychotherapist, current hypnotherapist, and a regression therapist. She is the co-author of the new book I just read, Cosmic Convergence, Journeys of Walk-ins, Starseeds, and Hybrids. And she's considered one of the world's leading authorities in the fields of ufology and extraterrestrial contact. Since 1991, Barbara has regressed countless numbers of people to some of their past lives, and she's been a featured lecturer at dozens of conferences across the U.S. and abroad. She's given hundreds of interviews for television programs, including Ancient Aliens and Netflix, and radio interviews on Coast to Coast Radio, Gaia TV, films, YouTube, the Conscious Awakening Network, and the Internet. She has received 5 Lifetime Achievement Awards from 5 major conferences for her work in giving help and support to experiencers of ET contact and furthering the field of UFOlogy. Barbara is an author. She's co-authored many books, including Crop Circles Revealed, Alien Experiences, Meet the Hybrids, Kids' Adventures with ET Friends in Space, and now the new Cosmic Convergence. And her new book, by the way, Cosmic Convergence, you can get it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. All of this is going to be in the show notes. And you can also find her in YouTube under her channel. And again, those URL links will be in the show note descriptions. So with this, I welcome the amazing Barbara Lamb to Dare to Dream. Welcome. It is so great to have you.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be with you and your audience. Your audience sounds wonderful.
They are, and they're definitely on this journey with us. And that's what I love about them, their contributions to this experience. And I am wondering, with the breadth of what you've done over the arc of these years, have you seen great change in what's happening currently in UFOs, currently in ET experiences? Has it amped up? Has it changed? Have we changed?
Well, yes, there actually have been some changes. I began regressing people in 1991, as you mentioned, to details of their experiences with extraterrestrial beings. And in the early days, that is the 1990s, many different features came out of the regressions, the experiences people were having with extraterrestrials. And a lot of them involved the hybridization program. They were having hybrid children. And and then many examples of physical examinations of people. And by the way, when they were physically examined, many people were healed
Hmm.
physically by the extraterrestrials. And so that was a big feature. And there were some people who, in their regressions, were finding that they had been taken to council meetings. And by that, I mean meetings with other beings, other species of beings who already had council meetings where they would get together and discuss things. And they would particularly, uh, when my clients were there for those meetings, they would particularly be discussing problems on planet Earth and what should they do
Hmm.
with those planets. For instance, one person found in a council meeting that the beings from many different species all over space, that they were very concerned about humanity and humanity's inclinations with many people anyway, to be greedy and to be warlike and combative and negative and over and against and waging wars and doing really atrocious things to other people. And they knew that not all humans were that way, thank goodness. But they were concerned that long ago, when they had helped to create human beings from earlier types of beings, that they added genetics that would involve that pugnacious aspect.
Hmm.
And yeah, and they were very concerned about that. They felt sort of responsible for that, and indeed, I think they were. And
Hmm.
so the concern at that one particular council meeting was, what do we do about this? You know, how can we interact with those humans so that they will not have so much DNA that is of that aggressive, hostile type. So they were really in a quandary about that at that particular meeting because, of course, they're not supposed to intervene with any other species, including humanity. And yet they had helped to create us, influence our development, way back in time. I mean, many thousands of years ago. So that was very interesting. Uh, Planet Earth, it turns out, is of great interest to a number of different species. And one of the reasons why we're of great interest is that they help to form us in the first place, give us genetics, and they are still giving certain people genetics, people we refer to as hybrids. Um, but they also are interested in Earth because Earth has more species in it of all types. I mean, when you really think of it, we have so many animal types, bird types, insect types, human types, even. In other words, whatever species we have in our oceans, air, or land, we have more species on this one little planet than all of the other planets have life forms put together. That information was given to me by an extraterrestrial being during the channeling of one of my clients. And I thought, wow, what an interesting perspective. Of course, we humans have not really done very much until recently about thinking about life even being on other planets. Certainly, I spent 2/3 of my life just thinking that we were the only ones. And then in the 1980s, it began to come out that some people were discovering that, oh, yes, indeed, there are other beings, and some of them are visiting us humans. So much has unfolded in my awareness since the late 1980s. But anyway, it's very helpful, I think, to have this perspective from some of these other beings, perspective about us. I know I certainly have a really different viewpoint of Earth and humanity um, from hearing from many of the extraterrestrials from their perspective.
Absolutely. There is so much that's amazing about what you said, and I have a couple of questions. The
Okay.
first one is when you okay, yeah. When you talk about these beings that got together that your client told you about, and they referred to us, or in your interpretation, as pugnacious, but that was actually received from our genetics. And I know exactly what you're saying, the genetic soup that we are. It, so we have thousands of different advanced civilizations inside of us that created who we are. The Anunnaki, originally 450,000 years ago, made some alterations. Then thousands of genetics were donated, but we have 5 seed races that donated their genetics to us: the feline, the reptilian, the bird, the avian, and the high-level Lyran beings. So I'm wondering about this warlike, this worrisome component of who we are individually and collectively, that does create wars. Is that, and please forgive me, reptilians, I know there's lots of good ones out there, but is
Yeah.
that part of the reptilian genetic lineage?
Well, it is, but as you say, there is such a mixture of extraterrestrial species in our lineage. Reptilian is in there. And I want to quickly jump right in and say that, yes, there are some really nice reptilians. Reptilians have a bad rap. And of course, I understand that because they're often big and they seem very commanding. They seem very aggressive, and they can be. Uh, but they look like they would be fearsome. But I personally had an experience myself when a reptilian being suddenly one sunny afternoon just showed up in my home, and he was there um, in a very nice way. That is, that as soon as I saw him just standing in my living room, not having been aware that anybody had come into my home, but there he was. And immediately he seemed like such a nice guy. And I went right over to him. He had his hand out for a handshake, and I took that hand in handshake position. And for about 5 or 6 minutes or so, he talked to me telepathically, and he was very safe, very likable. I trusted him. And I'm glad I did. It was a very favorable visit. And basically, he was there to just confirm to me that yes, beings from space really do come and visit some human beings, like he was visiting me. And he said he had been especially bred to be a friendly ambassador, to validate for people who were having these experiences with the other beings and doubted it and wondered if maybe they were going crazy. Uh, but no, they're not. They're perfectly sane people who are having these experiences. And he wanted me to know that for sure because I was working with so many people who were having experiences with the other beings. And it was a very, very wonderful visit. So that opened up my perspective from having thought, oh, reptilian beings are probably, you know, not only kind of scary to humans, but maybe have a lot of negative intentions. I went from that to thinking, oh, okay, there are a number of different types of reptilians in the extraterrestrial realm. Uh, and some of them are really nice. And I think it's helpful for people to know that.
Absolutely. I got corrected. I also had an awakening on this particular subject later on in life. And I came in with a lot of assumptions, a lot of fears, and a lot of assumptions. And
Sure.
very early on, I was corrected by a woman who channels the Yael.
Ah,
And I made a statement while we were doing a podcast a long time ago. And I said something about reptilians in a very generalized negative way. And this being is actually a male being that comes through this female channel, immediately corrected me
ah,
and expressed that they were not at all what I had thought they were. And then I thought, well, thank you. That's so beautiful. And I appreciate the correction because it's true. Even on this planet, there are good singers, there are bad singers, there are good lawyers, bad lawyers. There's good and bad. We live in a dualistic world. And so, even for whatever planet or galaxy, a species, there's going to be an amalgam. And I think maybe especially so in the reptilian species there is. And it's important to remember they're not all running our government and our corporations doing negative things. There's
right.
lots of them that come in with brilliance and magnificence.
Yes. Good. Well, I'm really pleased that you're emphasizing that too. I think it's only fair, that we give them a chance,
Yeah.
or give ourselves a chance to realize that there are many different types, and some of them are quite good. I'd like to pick up on what we were talking about a couple of minutes ago about, um, what I'm finding in the regressions.
Mm-hmm.
Years have gone on from the 1990s, and more recently, in past years, many people are coming for regressions to find out about their experiences that they have been having, that they have hints of. They don't know usually about a full blown experience, but they know the first few moments that the beings are there. And then that's all that they consciously remember. So they find out in regression, when we go back to a particular incident that they had of being visited by one of or a few of these beings, we get the details of that experience. And it comes out that there are a lot of really benevolent things that are happening to people in their experiences with these other beings. So even if they are taken from wherever they are on Earth, taken on board, and even if they are put on a medical table and, as they say, poked and probed and skin samples and hair samples taken and so forth, and other procedures, what they are finding more and more, people coming to me, are finding that the beings are actually detecting a physical problem in the person and healing it. And the healing is described in many, many different ways, usually with some sort of form of light. It might be like a roller of light coming up over their whole body in the front and adding healing in that way. Or it might be healing coming in what looks to people like a large flashlight emitting light, but it is a healing light. Or they may be completely surrounded by light that is doing the healing. So there are a number of different ways that healing happens, sometimes even with energy coming from the hands of some of the beings. So the healing has been a remarkable feature, a healing of many different things. Stomach disorders, blood disorders, bone disorders, kidney, liver, pancreas disorders, and so forth. Even cancer has been healed by a number of people by the extraterrestrials. And sometimes the extraterrestrials, having examined the person, they will tell the person that he or she has a particular problem going on with his or her liver or pancreas or whatever. And instead of healing it themselves, they will advise the person to go to their own physician when back on Earth and be sure to have that particular part of their body checked so that it can be taken care of. But mostly in the regressions that I've done, people are actually healed then and there by the beings, which I think is a wonderful thing. And we're finding also that some people are taught by the beings when they're on the ship. They're taught to do healing or to do psychic work or to upgrade their own psychic abilities. They're taught many, many favorable things by some of these beings. So recently, in the past, say, 3 years or so, not only have those things continued to be coming forth in regressions, but there's another theme too, that many people have been wondering before having had that encounter, wondering what their real purpose is in life, that they've had a sense that they are here to do something special, to help Earth, help humanity, help animal life, and but they don't quite know what that is. And a lot of these people are in their 50s or 60s or even 70s and 30s, I would say 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, when they have been wondering for a while, why am I really here? I mean, they're doing all the things that we're all doing in life and, to live life and to function, work, have relationships, have children. But still, there's that kind of pervading sense that there's a particular reason why they have come into this life, a particular service that they are to give. So, in some of these regressions, when they go into an extraterrestrial encounter, they are told and shown by the beings what their particular purpose is for being here in this life. And the beings encourage them to get on with it. In some cases, the beings even give suggestions about how to get going in doing that work if they're not already doing it. And in some cases, in these regressions, the people find out that they already are doing the essential reason why they came into this life. And the beings applaud that. They they support that, and they give encouragement about how they could use other means to be carrying out their mission. So it's really a very affirmative thing. And I've been very pleased that more and more people have been coming for that particular reason. You know, why am I really here?
Yeah.
Uh, that that reason.
I know you do a thorough job. And I know, my partner, Rob, has had several sessions with you. He raves about you. And I want to ask you a quick question here about your actual regression. Because I know
Yeah.
you've said to him, you should send Debbi. And there's only one reason why I haven't done it. But long time ago, when I've worked with hypnotherapists and they would quote unquote put me under, then they would say, look down at your feet and what do you see? And as soon as that happened, I went into my head, done. I mean, I wasn't under. I was actually panicking in my head. I'm supposed to see something. What am I supposed to see? There's nothing there. It became a whole thing. And
Oh,
so, yeah, I was wondering when you do your method, if you will, how you don't have to tell us the whole thing, but how do you get people to go under? Because clearly you're very, very successful at what you do.
thank you. Well, I want to clear up something right away. It is not a matter of going under, and many people have that disillusion. Um, Actually, the regression just involves a nice state of deep relaxation. And anybody can go into that if they're willing to sort of let go and relax with the suggestions that I give them. And so that's all that we need for regression, just a nice state of deep relaxation, plus a focus, something that we are looking for, something we are wondering about. I call that the focus of the regression, the subject of the regression. So regressions don't always take people into past lives. I did many years and am still occasionally doing past life regression. I started way back in 1984, being trained by the Association for Past Life Research and Therapies. And for several years, that's what was coming up in my regressions was people's experiences in certain previous lifetimes. Uh, but regression can be used for any purpose, and it depends on what the question is that the person has, what the focus is. Uh, so, in this nice state of deep relaxation, you might be aware of something going on in the environment of where you are. Um, Noises outside, dog barking, telephone ringing, just about anything. And you can be aware of what your own body is feeling like when you're in that nice state of relaxation. So, and you can hear me or whoever is conducting the regression. And that's very important that you hear me because I ask questions that bring out more and more detail. So when I do a regression to an extraterrestrial experience, I ask the person, okay, which event that happened to you that would you like to explore more? And they'll give me details. Like, for instance, I was age 6, sleeping in the attic of my grandmother's house during summer vacation. And there I was, and my brother was in the little cot next to me. And so, and that's when suddenly there was somebody else there. This is what they consciously remember. And then they don't remember very much about that someone else, maybe just a moment or two, and then they're out of conscious awareness. So we will go back to that person's age 6. I will say, okay, you are going back to being age 6 in the bed in your grandmother's attic with your brother in the cot next to you, just what the person has told me. And we begin there. So I'll say, okay, what are you first aware of? After I have done the relaxation process, what are there now? I say, you are age 6. And what are you aware of on this particular night in your grandmother's attic, etc.? And then the person will start saying, oh, okay, well, I'm lying in bed. And I'll say, which side are you lying on? Or are you on your back? And they'll say, oh, I'm on my left side. So I do detailed questions like that to help the person to be more in that situation that they are essentially reliving. And we go from there. Okay, you're in your bed, and you're in your grandmother's attic, you're age 6, your brother is in the cot next to you. Okay, so what are you aware of now? And then the person will say, oh, I'm aware that somebody else is in the room, or I'm aware that there's light coming in through the window. And it's kind of mysterious because that's never happened before. Or they'll give the details of whatever they're aware of. And I keep asking questions to bring out more details. And then they see the being and they can describe the being and they describe what's happening to them. Like I can move my eyes and see the being, but I can't move my body at all. And I want to wake up my brother and have him see this, but I can't say anything. Anyway, it gets very, very detailed. And we go on from there with the person being floated up out of the bed and removed through the wall and into a spacecraft. And moment by moment, all the details that are happening to that person that have happened. So all of this is accomplished just in that nice state of deep relaxation.
I can feel it as you're talking. I can feel how calming and relaxing. Even as you go through this example, I'm there. I'm already there. So
Oh,
that makes so much sense. Thank you for taking us through that. It's beautiful. And I want to talk, I want to bring in this aspect of your book to this conversation, your new book that you co-wrote with Sheila Sheppy, and it's called Cosmic Convergence. And this book that I just read talks about walk-ins, it talks about starseeds and hybrids.
right.
Such a good conversation right now. And how would you typify the difference between the walk-ins, the starseeds, and the hybrids?
Right. Okay. Well, there are a lot of similarities, actually, and there are differences. A walk-in is a soul who has wanted to come to Earth and to help humanity. And instead of going through the whole process of incarnating as a fetus and a baby and child and teenagers and young adult years before getting to that work, they kind of take a shortcut. That is, that soul, which might be from a spiritual realm or it might be from an extraterrestrial realm, that soul looks around and finds the soul of a person living here uh, who does not want to be here in life anymore. And they make an agreement to do a soul exchange. And that means that at a certain moment in time, a certain place where the earth person is, uh, that soul will leave the human body, and immediately the soul of the other one, disincarnate one, will enter that body and take up life in that body. the soul that has left that body will go right into the spirit realm where we all go when we die. And it is absolutely fine. And the new soul coming in now is suddenly in a human body. And that human body, of course, has relatives, family, life work, whatever that person had been involved with, and picks up from there, does a lot of adjusting, and then gets on with the work that that soul, the incoming walk-in soul, has wanted to do to be helpful here on Earth. So it's really a very efficient system and a wonderful system. We have quite a number of walk-ins. I don't know how many, but in the world, I'm sure this is happening all over the world.
It must
Okay.
be very strange for the walk-in because, I mean, suddenly you're in this body, so
Right.
that's got to be new and a big adjustment, and maybe all the afflictions or tenants or the way it's built or the way the person's been taking care of it who's exited the body. And then,
Right.
like you said, there's family, there's a whole life, there's a career, and there's probably a lot of ways that human had behaved that perhaps are not indigenous to this extraterrestrial or spiritual being who comes here. How
Right.
difficult is that transition for a walk-in?
Yes, oh, absolutely. And I want to mention that in this book, Cosmic Convergence,
Put it right in front of your face because it's a little blurred. There you go. Ish. Okay.
this book, Sheila Seppi, who
Yeah, we can't see it. It's blurred.
we wrote this book together. Um, Sheila Seppi is a walk-in herself, so she has described that in great detail about what that experience was like for her. And she goes in talking about various types of walk-ins. Some stay for just a little while, some stay for the rest of that person's life. Some are maybe there are two souls that come in. We call that a braided soul, who are living in that person. Uh, so anyway, she goes into great detail about the different types of walk-ins. So now let's quickly talk about starseeds.
Yeah.
Starseeds are not walk-ins. They have been born here
Mhm.
in order to help humanity as well, and they have extraterrestrial lineage. In
Mhm.
other words, each one of the starseeds had been at least one of the types of extraterrestrials, usually more,
Mhm.
um, in previous lifetimes. But now they are here as a human to help raise the consciousness of humanity, help the spirituality of humanity, and help in many different ways. And then the hybrids, um, which I have paid a tremendous amount of attention to and wrote the book Meet the Hybrids with Miguel Mendonça. Uh, the hybrids are born here also, but before they were born, usually at the point of conception, they are given extraterrestrial genetics, and usually of more than just one type. Usually, hybrids I know have genetics from two or three or four or five or six different types of extraterrestrial species. But anyway, uh, so they have been given these genetics either when they are gestating in their mother's wombs. They are given an injection through the mother's abdomen, the wall of the uterus, into the fetus, and therefore are born hybrids, or they're given as the eggs and the sperm from the woman and the man are mixed together on board the ship, and they add extraterrestrial genetics there, and then they implant that hybridized embryo into the human mother. So they too are here totally for service. helping humanity, helping all of life, even helping the earth. And with all of these categories, the walk-ins, the starseeds, and the hybrids, they have a wonderful range of psychic abilities.
Mm-hmm.
All have the ability to heal people and animals. They all have lots of visits from the extraterrestrial beings who gave them their genetics. So they are all here totally for service, teaching, counseling, lecturing, webinars, conferences, any way that they can, a lot of meeting with individual people uh, to help us develop on Earth and to help us to help the Earth itself. So it's really a wonderful thing, in my opinion, that we have walk-ins, starseeds, and hybrids,
Mm.
because we really do need help with all the negative things going on in the world, and but they are here really to help and to raise the consciousness of humanity
Yeah.
by working with these individual people and individual groups. So I think we're very fortunate that we
Hmm.
have them amongst us.
Definitely agreed. And I have personally known hybrids. I've had two clients who were hybrids. And as
Yeah,
soon as I met them, it was like this person, when they claim they're not fully from here, they are definitely not fully from here. There's a
yeah,
behavior that is not quite human by any means, very different. And also, occasionally, not all of the hybrids that I know, they look different. Sometimes you can tell from the long, elongated eyes. It's just somehow the way the face has been put together. It's quite beautiful, but it's very clear it's an amalgam. It's not purely earthly human DNA that's in them. And
right.
I agree with you. They have extraordinary abilities. And they came here at this very auspicious time to
Yes.
really help us. We're very, very fortunate. What do you think, after decades of all your research, Barbara, what do you think is the ultimate reason why extraterrestrials have had contact with humans?
Well, I think because they have been involved in creating us and influencing us for eons of time, we're kind of one of their own in a sense. And so they continue to be very interested in us.
Mm.
And also, as I said, we're a very unique planet itself with so many life forms on it. And they are very concerned about our nuclear proliferation and how we could be sending off nuclear bombs anytime, which we're all aware of. Um, and they say that if we do start releasing nuclear material like that, it will not only contaminate the whole Earth and maybe ruin all life on Earth, but it will spread out through the solar system and even beyond the solar system to affect the other planets. So they do not want us to do that. That's one of the reasons why I think there has been an increase in these extraterrestrial visits to Earth since we started uh, sending our nuclear bombs. They realized, oh, we have this technology and we could make some really terrible, terrible decisions about that. And of course, as the years have gone by since the atom bomb, um, we have so many countries have developed nuclear capability, and so it's increasing all the time. And I think that the beings out there are really, really concerned, not just for us, but for them.
Yes, for good reason, they're concerned. Absolutely. And I understand in your path, in your personal journey, Barbara, that you had this experience where you suddenly remembered lives in Peru and Egypt. And what kind of impact has that remembrance and incorporating that into your life had? What particular influence have these past lives been in your more current days?
Well, the obvious thing is that having had these spontaneous past life recalls and really believing, trusting that they were real memories rather than just imagination coming up, because they were so detailed and so powerful in terms of visual image and feeling and thought. So those spontaneous past life recalls brought my attention to the fact that, yes, indeed, we do reincarnate over and over. Before those events happened, I thought reincarnation was kind of a quaint, interesting belief that people over in the eastern part of the world had, but I didn't think there was any reality to it. Uh, but when I started having these spontaneous memories myself, oh, it got me rethinking that whole issue. And I came to the conclusion that, you know, even though nobody else around me agreed about this, I really think that we have many, many, many lifetimes. And so that got me interested enough that when I met the woman who founded the Association for Past Life Research and Therapies, I immediately gave attention to that. And she said, come to my conference we're having tomorrow night and see for yourself. So I went and was so impressed with, about 50 different past life therapists who had convened for this conference. I was very impressed with them and with the work that they were doing, and then took their training for 5 years. That's what got me into doing regression therapy. And even in with my regular therapy clients, because I had already been licensed as a therapist for several years by that time, uh, even in doing regressions with some of my clients, I found out amazing things, not only all the Earth lifetimes that people had had, but even some extraterrestrial lifetimes that a few of them had had. And then in 1991, that's when my first uh, genuine uh, experiencer client came, somebody to uh, do regressions about the weird happenings that were happening to them, which had to do with extraterrestrials visiting them and taking them away for a while.
Mm.
So
Can
anyway,
you
the funny,
share along those lines? Can you share if you've got one or even a couple of great stories of the most memorable extraterrestrial regressions that you have facilitated a session for somebody, and what really surprised you that came out of it?
well, the one that comes immediately to mind, although there are so many, um, was a woman who came for regression, and she found that she had been taken from her home to a spaceship and put into what she described as a pod. And by that, she meant it was like a bathysphere, a big circular, spherical object full of liquid. And
Mm,
she was put into that and left for about, it seemed like 3 days. There was a little window in the pod, and every once in a while, somebody, a different type of being, extraterrestrial being, would look through the window just to check on her and make sure she was okay. And she was able to breathe this fluid.
mm,
This was all very mysterious to her. And after about 3 days, it seemed, she was taken out of the pod. And by the way, there were four other pods, each with a human in it, and they were all taken out, and they spit out all the extra fluid. and they were just fine. And they were dressed in robes and hoods that came well past their faces and led along a long corridor by one of the extraterrestrial beings, seemed to go on forever. And then they ended up in a huge meeting room, which looked like a big council meeting with, and that was a round room with tables and chairs on each layer going up from the floor. And she noticed that there were many, many hundreds, probably a few thousand beings there in identical robes with those hoods. So you couldn't really see their faces unless you got right in front of them. Anyway, she realized that after a while that having been led up several steps to her lair, where there were a very few other humans, that they were part of this intergalactic meeting, and various things were being discussed, including their perspective of problems on planet Earth and what should they do, if anything, about them. So that was very, very notable, um, an experience. And there are just so many others. I'm very impressed always with the healing sessions and
Yeah.
with teaching sessions, and also with people being taken to visit their hybrid children who are living on the ship. Those children are mostly extraterrestrial in component and would not be able to live here on Earth, even though they have human genetics in them from the hybridization program. Those are always very impressive. And then, really, I think my favorites are when people are encouraged by the extraterrestrial beings to know about their mission and to carry out their mission, and to know that they are always supported in their mission, supported by those beings.
That's
So
beautiful.
those are some of my most notable, but there are many, many examples of people also just being taken and ushered around the whole spaceship, which is very fascinating to get the descriptions of. And that happens to children and also to people of any age when they are taken. And by the way, I would like to mention my children's book about children's extraterrestrial experiences.
Yeah.
It's written for children. It's mostly illustrations done by Mary Edwards. And so it shows a child being visited in bed, a child being uh, taken into a portal, a child being on the spaceship, a child being on a medical table, being healed, um, a child having grown up, being part of the great council meeting with many other species. It has 18 different scenarios that real children have told me about, mostly in regression, and some who've just simply remembered an amazing amount about their extraterrestrial encounters. So that's, a lot of children have these experiences. And when they tell their parents, if the experience happened at night and then the next morning, they tell their parents that, oh, the monsters came, or the squoogies, or whatever name they've given to them, or the little men came again last night. The parents usually don't believe them. They think, oh, that is just something made up, or they tell the child, oh, that must have been a dream. And so the real encounters go unacknowledged in so many cases. And the children soon realize that they have nobody to talk to about those experiences that they really did have. So this book is to help validate that, yes, children sometimes, some children do have those experiences with the other beings, and to validate for the parents.
This
Be
is
real
true.
about
This happens.
the children. So kids' adventures with ET friends in space, or just for short, ET friends.
That's great. And of course, under Amazon, you can go there and type in Barbara Lamb, and all your books show up, which is lovely if people really want to deep dive into your work. And another one of the books that you wrote, Barbara, is regarding crop circles, and
Yes.
which is so interesting. What kind of insights have you gained into your extensive research into crop circles? And are there any new ones lately in the last year or two?
Yes, there are new ones. The phenomenon keeps happening. I was very pleased every year. Oh, good, it's happening again. And I spent 25 years going in the summertime to England and went into many crop circles, probably a couple of thousand crop circles myself, and noticed all the details and felt the energies. And anyway, I think this is just a fantastic gift that is given to us humans, uh, these crop circles. I think they definitely bring an energy with them, which you can feel in them and you can measure it with electrostatic voltmeters and magnetometers and even microwave detectors and dowsing rods, which was my favorite way of determining if a crop circle was genuine, that is, from the unknown source,
May I
compared.
ask you about that? So that's
Yeah,
very interesting because we just had somebody on the show and her expertise is dowsing rods. So I know they can detect water. I mean, I'm moving my hands. Of course, you wouldn't typically, the rods would move. But
right.
how does the rod detect? Is it a yes and no system, or are they looking for something specific that it responds to?
Well, in my case, going into crop circles, um, I first of all, at the beginning of any season, before going into a crop circle, I would test my dowsing rods, like what is a yes answer, what is a no answer, what is an I don't know answer. Um, so then I would go into a crop circle and I would, if it was a genuine one made by the unknown source, the dowsing rods would open up. That was my yes indication from the dowsing rods. And if there was no energy increase or change in that crop circle, meaning it was a man-made crop circle, there are some of those, the dowsing rods would just stay straight ahead. They wouldn't move at all. And so over the years, I did that for, well, probably 24 of those 25 years, I used dowsing rods. And that indication of yes on the dowsing rods, there is extra energy or the energy has increased here, that always uh, went along with my personal feeling being in the crop circles because it's very, very subtle, the change of energy or the increase in energy, but it is there. And that's why we use some of these measuring instruments. Some of my friends would use pendulums, and the pendulum swinging would always agree with what was happening with my dowsing rod. So we always had a check and a balance there to some extent. So anyway, they are adding energy in the crop circle. And many of us feel that since the crop circles are located usually near ancient sacred lithic stone sites, which used to have a lot of energy. They were very important for the ancient people. And but the energy is kind of, diminished over the many, many centuries. So many of us feel that the energy in the crop circle near the ancient sacred site is being reignited, being reawakened, that we're getting more positive energies coming to the earth. Or no matter where the crop circle is placed on the earth, always, of course, in a growing crop of one type or another, um, but that they're adding extra benevolent energy to the land there, and not only to the crop, but to the land itself. Uh, so many of us feel that the crop circles are kind of an invitation to wonder where they came from and to think, oh, I wonder if they might have come from somewhere else in space, from some kind of intelligence. It certainly seems like the crop circle designs are very intelligently done. I mean, they're beautiful patterns, perfect patterns, if they're done by the anomalous source. There are humans who have gotten into it also since I think the 1990s or maybe 1989. And from the air, the crop circles that they make can look pretty decent, I must admit. But when you go into them, they're just flat. The grains, the stalks are just flattened, crushed down, pushed down, and they die because they lose connection with the roots. So the crop circle sort of looks dead if you go near it, and there's no increase in energy at all. And often the blades are laid down in a more sort of haphazard or messy sort of way compared to the genuine ones, which are just done so perfectly. Every single blade just laid down parallel to the next one, and very, very neat and trim. And then, of course, the extra energies. So it's a fascinating phenomenon, and I'm very grateful that it's still happening. So most of the crop circles have happened in England over the years since the early 1980s, and but they happen all over the world as well. Probably just about every country that grows any kind of crop has crop circles in it. And crop circles or those types of formations are also found on rare occasion in things like sand on a beach or gravel or ice in a stream, or ice or snow on the land. There have been what we refer to as crop circles, but of course, we're not dealing with a crop here. But so it's a very wonderful phenomenon that has really sparked many of us, anyway, to really think about the possibilities of where they come from, which has brought our attention to space. And for my own experience, 1991 was the same year when I did my first regressions with people who were having extraterrestrial contact. And the same year, I was having my first summer experience in crop circles in England. So those two tracks of great fascination for me have gone along in a parallel direction.
Mm.
And I
Isn't
think
that lovely? That is such powerful guidance that you received all at the same time to pique your curiosity, to open up your path for you, to
yeah,
you. I
yeah.
love that. And we're almost at the end. I have two brief questions, but I got to get this one in. So, can you tell us, if you know, what is your galactic heritage? Do you know who you hail from, and if there is a dominant species that is in the Barbara Lamb being we are witnessing today?
Oh, wonderful question. Well, I had what is called a star origin reading back in 2015 by a wonderful hybrid woman named Jacqueline Smith. And she does these star origin readings when people ask her for them. Being a hybrid, she has these amazing abilities and so much contact with her extraterrestrial beings. So, anyway, she told me in this reading that I had had many, many lifetimes way back at the beginning of my being a soul, many lifetimes of being in celestial realms. And then I had a number of lifetimes being a certain kind of extraterrestrial. That was a very highly advanced species, which was full of light. They were mostly light beings. And then I had a series of incarnations of being various other types, like mantis beings. And in some incarnations, I was a dolphin like being on a different planet, a watery planet. They weren't exactly in the shape and form that our dolphins are, but they had the same kind of skin and lived mostly in the water on that planet. And then she mentioned several other types. There were Arcturian, and there were Andromedan, and there were tall whites, and there were Pleiadians, and it just seems like, according to that reading, that I'd had many different lifetimes as various types of extraterrestrials. And every time she mentioned a different type that I had been, I immediately felt a big flash of light going off in me, like recognition. Oh, no wonder I've been so fond of the mantis beings in this life. And I have been exceedingly interested in and fond of, even loving of, the mantis beings that people sometimes have experiences with. And with each type that she mentioned, it was like a flash of light went off inside me of recognition of, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And, no wonder I've been so interested in those types in this lifetime, because I had been one of them in the very, very distant past.
I can see all of that for you, by the way. I'm not surprised. I had intuition, if you will, or downloads about you being celestial, about you being dolphin. Very, very interesting. And when you say that you once upon a time, well, it's all actually concurrent, isn't it? It's not past, present, or anything. It's all happening at the same time. But as
Right.
you are this incredible being of light, I still see that in you. I
Oh,
think you are that in this lifetime. What a big
oh,
mission you have come here. So that leads me to my final question, Barbara.
all
This
right.
is Dare to Dream. So, what do you next dare to dream? Do you have future dreams or goals?
Yes, I do actually. And that is to be able to share more of this information to more people. And I'm doing a good deal of that already, but I've just been invited to participate in a new university. Well, I don't know if it's a new university, but it's forming a new program so that people can get a certificate in UFO studies, or a master's degree, or a PhD degree. And I'm just beginning discussions these days with the man who's putting all that together. And that would be an opportunity to share even further. So I'm very pleased to look forward to doing that.
Okay.
I will
Wow.
continue to,
Finally. And is there more?
well, I just continue to work with people who want to come to me for regressions. Right. So,
Yes, highly recommended. And they're long sessions too. So for folks who really want to explore, Barbara is your guide. I've heard nothing but amazing feedback. And I know you also worked on our mutual friend, Ruben Langdon. And
yeah.
so just from my heart to yours, thank you for the beautiful work you have done and continue to do for all of us to open up this very important conversation, and I'm thrilled to hear. This is the first step of many, I hope, that there's actually a schooling system acknowledging this and willing to explore this, because I think a lot of people will sign up for that degree.
Ubiquity University, it is called. Ubiquity.
Ubiquity. Well, folks who are interested, you can find Barbara Lamb on YouTube. Her handle there is at Barbara Lamb ET Regressions. Her new book, you can type in her name on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, Cosmic Convergence, is at both platforms. And I'm going to end today's show with this quote from Rekha Sharma. I believe there's other forms of intelligence in the universe. I've seen and heard some pretty convincing UFO stuff. Besides, if we're the most intelligent things in the universe, well, that's just depressing. Subscribe to this #1 transformation conversation, Dare to Dream with Debbi Dachinger. Please leave a comment. I do read them. And like the show, help support it. And in the next weeks on the show, I'm going to be featuring conversations with the following: Anthony Kalisk next week, who channels, ta-da, the reptilians. And I'm excited for that, a first. And then in the weeks after that, Tim Tactics, the amazing Tim Tactics, is back for his 3rd show on Dare to Dream. And also, this is so big, the legend George Norrie will be here from Coast to Coast Radio and Beyond Belief shows. I'm very excited for these conversations. If you subscribe, you will get notice of these shows first. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a part of this community and on this path. We adore you.